me where you grew up, a little bit about.
I grew up in Poland. And first, let me tell you who I am. I am a victim who eventually became a survivor, and I am a witness. But I also am a victor. Where do I look?
You can look at me.
It's you? Mm-hmm. Okay. And I grew up in Poland. I really grew up till age of 6 when my father passed away in the riches. But the riches eventually, at the time when I was 12, became poverty. My mother didn't know to run father's business, and that's what happened. My brother, who studied in France, became a chemist, lived in France. He was, 20, 22, when we had the hardest time. And my sister, divorcee, and mother and I lived in a small apartment. My sister and my mother, they were knitting beautiful sweaters. They just came, handmade sweaters with a design, came in style. And they did this. But the life was very, very poor for us. You couldn't make a living of it. And my mother was one of 5 children, and she was, my uncle had one daughter, and my mother had 3. And this was all. The other 2 aunts did not have children. One of them was very well-to-do, and she was helping out. It was poverty. The worst part happened that when I had to go to a private gymnasium because Iches, if you know what Iches is, of the good standing, the Dobrzyński, father had the only silk store in town. Since trousseaux were made to order, this was a very good business. My mother did not know, didn't have contact with the deliverers, or father used to go to Germany and was in contact. Mother had no idea. The business went down, and this, when the aunt, who did not have children but could help, she helped. She wanted to buy me a machine to make hose for sale. I was gifted in drawing and designing clothes, and this was the only thing I wanted to be, which eventually, in the year before the war, I studied dress designing, and this is what I became, which also helped me to survive the war days. At the age of 17, the war broke out, and
do you remember
we young people not only ran, but were sent by families, save your life. We will stay here, we cannot go, but the older one, you go out. And so we started a group of us, 7. I don't remember, I think 3 boys and 4 girls. I don't remember anymore. Anyhow.
Let me back you up just a second. Tell me about Crystal Knot, what you remember.
I had nothing to do with Crystal Night. I even didn't know that there was Crystal Night. Okay. I am born in Poland.
Right. No, but I know that there were people that heard about it.
Okay. That I found after the war.
Okay, so you didn't know anything about it at the time. You hadn't heard
people
anything.
in Germany, from Germany, will tell you. No, I was.
So you never heard
which
anything.
year was it?
In 1939.
Yeah. No, I was not. I was running toward the Russian side.
So you had heard nothing?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing. We didn't have papers, and definitely Germans would not advertise it. Anyhow, so we went away. We hoped that we will reach Romania, and this was really mostly on foot. And at night we were looking for shelter. The best shelter we found was one night on a oven in a bakery. It was warm and cozy, and we laid on top of the oven, which was, built bricks or whatever. So this is the pleasure that we had one night, that we could rest well. We hope that we will go through Romania, and from there we will be able somehow to go to the United States. Very nice dream. It never came true. I landed in a city, Lvov, which,
Let me stop you really quick. Who were you with at this time? Were you with
as I said, the
your-
7 people.
So all of you, your parent, everybody?
All of us,
Okay.
all of us. We landed in a city that at the moment was occupied by a Russian, a Polish city, and we started we wanted to make a life. We got one room, and we went to the market. We bought an electric unit, and then we started life, which we girls bought from, I think, peasants. It was a wool homespun from the animals they had. There was Angora from the rabbits and wool from sheep. And it was very rough yarn. But we knitted on big needles, and it went, 1, 2. And we sold it we traded it with other peasants. We went to the market, we traded, we started to make a living. We found crates that were our chairs, and we had, I wrote it in my book, and really and truly, the thing that was very hard on my soul, I got rid with the book. And now I don't have to remember it anymore. When I want to know, I read it. Mm-hmm. Anyhow, people are like this. People try to forget the bad time. But I definitely now, when I talk special to young people, I tell them, write down, because it's important, whatever you think. If you have some bad memories or you have misunderstanding with your parents, write it down, because this will cure your soul that is always overloaded. So this is what happened during the war. So I was not in a ghetto. I saw the movie The Pianist recently. Mm-hmm. And I became very cool about the Holocaust. I have had a new life, and the life was good to me. I had a wonderful husband, and the other was another chapter of my life. And when I read now, very seldom, or I hear, I am cool. I don't specially go to look for movies, but the Pianist was something I wanted to see because I read about it. Have you seen it?
Not yet.
I, who am cool, if I would not be with this friend, I would not be able to get up from the chair. Because there is the story of his, that the story is exactly like mine, with the beating, with the treatment. But one thing I was lucky not to live through. I was never in a, no, not never. A time I was few days in a small ghetto. I was not in a ghetto. And this man there in the movie is alone. The ghetto does not exist anymore. And he's hungry and he's cold and he's alone. Alone. I was lucky that during the hardest time, I never was alone. If I got a beating, somebody else got two. Friends, we have been together. And I must say that this is one thing that really kept us going, that we were together.
Was it always someone you knew?
I don't hear.
Was it always someone that you knew that you were with?
No, no.
People that you
no.
met?
We made new acquaintances. I have a friend who is 6 years older than me, who lost a husband and a child, and we became friends for life. She is in Israel, no? And we're still very close.
So you were with your family. You were with your family.
No?
Where you left off is what I'm saying. Where you left off, you were with your family.
Yeah.
You were, okay, you were trading at the market. Yeah. Then tell me what happened.
And then it was, I believe, the 5th of November, if I am not mistaken. They came September the 3rd. The army came into our city and was extremely rough treatment. They didn't beat yet, but they screamed at us. Let's say we lived in an apartment house, a block that had one big gate. Of course, the gate was closed, and they started to knock. Not knock. They started to scream, open the gate. The gate was opened by the janitor, and maybe 16 apartments in the house. And they started to go from apartment to apartment and check where is the man. It's true that in the beginning of the war, all men tried to escape. Went. Where do you go? Really, when I think about it, where do you go? But run. They had their way to catch on us. And they saw a picture of my father, who was deceased, 11 years before. And they said, where is he? He is not alive. They didn't take, they wanted, a small interrogation. But the tone of voice, this was terrible. This was terrible. They didn't beat us yet, but the superiority, you knew that you will not have a good treatment in the future.
You were how old at this time?
17.
17. Did you have any understanding of what was happening to you at that time, other than there was just a lot of violence?
People were debating the short war, not more than 5 weeks, for sure. And the Poles, I tell you, I have nothing to do with Poles, and I didn't have good memories. My country is America. This is where I am most of my life. But I never would go back to Poland. I never had the desire to show Poland, not I or my husband, to the children. We traveled a lot. but we did never go to Poland or Germany. Matter of fact, we were to go to South Africa, and our travel agent told us a day before that we are going to fly, I don't know how, what trip it was really, fly over Germany in Lufthansa. My husband said, Lufthansa? Forget about it, we are not going. And we didn't.
Wow.
We didn't, because we didn't want anything German by ever. Which is, maybe not right. It depends. At times they are supposed to be our friends. But it is in the blood.
So you were trading at the market. They came looking for the men.
Yeah. Of course, they didn't find. When they found, they took the men to do heavy work. We all were later on. This was the first day of war. But later on, they also took women to work. But sometimes they, how shall I say, the work was really not needed, but they gave you a toothbrush and told you to clean with the toothbrush the sidewalk, just to show you that you are nobody and you do what we say. The main idea was to feel us subhuman. And the dehumanizing was through all the war, good or bad. Eventually, I think it was in the second, we established ourselves in Lvov, and I was working in a dress factory, Russian or Ukrainian operated. And I and a friend rented a room at apartment. And more or less we made living. We went also once a while. We didn't make much money, but once in a while we could afford to go to a restaurant. It was more or less normal life. Till I decided I have to see my mother and sister. No, so I will try to go back to Poland, not to Poland, to the part that was occupied by the German. I have to go there.
You hadn't heard from your mother? You hadn't
No.
talked to her at all?
No. But I knew from people who came after us, we met people, that my mother and aunt and my sister went to Warsaw. I am from Lodz, which was second biggest city. And that my mother is in Warsaw. So I hired a smuggler who was supposed to get me to Warsaw. But he gave a condition. We had I had no papers. No, none. Not false, not right, no papers. But he said, we will go by train, but when I will wink to you, we were not sitting in the same compartment. When I will wink, I want you to know that this is where we got off. And it happened like this. I have 40 minutes there.
You said 40 or 14?
40.
40.
In the train, in another compartment, but we heard they were not, the compartment were have walls. Two soldiers spoke, you know, there in this compartment is a Jew. Let's get him. I did not blush, I didn't paled. This was, you know, this was somebody else that I hoped they didn't talk about me. And, you know, today I think, today I wouldn't have the courage without paper to be really alone because he was in somewhere else. Mm-hmm. But who cared? We didn't care about the life, we didn't care about tomorrow. To make the story short, he winked, we went out. It was a small town and a small ghetto, which I was few days, I don't remember how many. When a selection came, trucks came, there was really no selection. I think maybe 500 people were there. The trucks came. Where do we go? Are we going for work or are we going for death? Nobody knows. We arrived in a field. It was Skarżysko was the name of the place. We didn't know what we will be doing there. They just let us out in a field and commanded us. The Nazis were all over, the Sturmführers, and of course the Black Coats, Gestapo was there too. Stand in formation, 10, 5, I don't remember. And we didn't know what they want from us, but we stood like this. It was, I don't remember what month it was, but it was very cold.
Now, by this time, had you heard anything that was going on anywhere else in Europe?
Nothing.
You still knew nothing?
Nothing.
Okay.
They were later on, you found out that they
Sure.
are people who work for the underground. They knew,
Right.
but they did not share with us common people. No,
yet, right.
we not only didn't know, we were not interested. I don't know I was not interested. I talk about myself. I just wanted to work and go to sleep and work and go to sleep.
You hadn't yet found your mother or your sister.
I did not find them.
You were
I
in a field.
never came there. Of course, I was very, very sad. But you had to take it the day at a time. So we came there, we stood on so-called Appel Plots, where roll call was called every day. We ceased to be individuals. We got numbers. Till today, when I go to school to talk, and they hang on me a number, a visiting guest, thank you. I feel very uncomfortable. If I recall, I was number 419, which after the war, my husband and I made little Magen David with the inscription, cassette number. Anyhow, so we landed in Skarżysko and we stood in forms, and the little guy with his legs spread, shiny boots, a uniform of course. Who has a good eyesight? 18 of us. I mean more. No, he need 18 for 6 machinery, 3 to a machine. What machine? We were the 18 people chosen, were taken to a factory. We then did not know how it works. They were two camps. One camp where we lived in barracks. Yeah, we were also given the number of barrack with a wooden bunk beds, 3-story high. And this was the commandatur of this camp was in one hand. The factory was military. They are two different things.
Right.
Yeah. And both were called Hasak. It stood for something which I never tried even to find out. 2 years later, we were transferred to another city where my future husband was from. And they took us to factory at this time. Oh, they said, you sit here, a long, how do you call it? And God help you. No, he didn't say God, they did not believe. But if you let out the bad one.
Were you religious growing up?
No,
No.
but we were observant.
You were observant.
Yeah, the family was observant.
Did you find yourself praying at this time?
No,
Trying to understand?
no, I don't pray today either.
You don't pray today either?
No.
Okay. So, do you remember what you were thinking this time? What was happening?
I wasn't thinking. Who was thinking?
Well, I mean, do you remember what you were trying to understand? Were you trying to find out what was going on? You were just doing what you were supposed
No.
to do and that was it?
We were zombies,
Yeah, yeah.
some of us, most of us.
We're just getting up and doing your job,
Yeah.
and, right.
I knew that we live here and we have 12 hours to work,
Right.
and we will have change of shift, will be day. But let me tell you about the first day of work.
Okay.
After a few hours of work, we were called to the master. He was really a master of our life. A small room, he stands there again, the uniform, the shiny boots, the legs spread, the hands on the hip. You Jewish swines, you are sabotaging. You let the bad casing together with the good one. We didn't know what we do. Who of us has seen a casing of a bullet before? And he started to beat us, 3 of us, from one machine. I lost this time 17 teeth. He hit so badly. He aimed really between the eyes, nose. We were so beaten, 3 of us, that words fail me to explain it. I tell you only that I lost 17 teeth, I spit them out. And he sent us back after, I don't know, probably half an hour treatment. But this was a lesson. We knew right away to put even, when there was a mark on the, we didn't know if can go or not. We put it with the bad ones. Later on in the other camp, in Częstochowa, my husband was mechanically inclined, and he was running powder to put in the casing. And he was sabotaging. I didn't know at this time that he was connected with the underground. I didn't know him really, I knew of him. He was a very respected young man, and he could do some damage. We couldn't.
When you say sabotage, what was he
Stop
doing?
the machinery.
Stopping the machinery?
Yeah, it broke something, I have to repair it.
And then he was
No? So the machine did not work. He operated 10 machines.
Did they find out what he was doing? Did anyone find out what he was doing?
The master suspected because said, what is now? What do you want now? I want, no, I don't want anything. Sometimes he said, when a woman was killed because the master took the gun and killed her, the machine stopped working. Machine or 2 or 3, I don't remember. What is now? Nothing. I have to repair it. Okay, there was hunger. There was.
Excuse me 1 second. Excuse me 1 second.
Listen, ask questions because it never will end.
Oh,
No, seriously.
I just, sometimes
When
I
I
get,
start talking,
I want to just keep up
there
with
is-
it.
There is a life story.
Well, and I do also have your book. So, and I do also have
Take
your
it from
book.
the book.
Oh, I will. I will. I'm going to do both. Talk to you and the book. Sometimes, though, what you say is so amazing. I want to get a better understanding of
But
it.
I really talk about what I put in the book.
Okay.
Only one, I have 8 grandchildren, but only one, maybe my granddaughter will, when her children will grow up, she will talk. But only one is interested, and he said, this is my legacy.
Okay. I had it on the wrong speed, so now it's fixed.
So what was I saying?
You were talking to me about your future husband was sabotaging the machines.
Yeah. And when we were on night shift, yeah, of course, in order to have some food, the friend that I said that we became long life friends, she was a wife of a tailor.
Mm-hmm.
And she knew to sew, and I was sewing. So the masters found out about it. Apparently was shortage in Germany of fabric and so forth. They sent clothing from Germany to their husband, let's say, and from 2 dresses you made 1, all by hand. Mm-hmm. We didn't have, I don't know, needles. I think we traded with the Poles, yeah. Mm-hmm. Thread, we didn't have thread. But every box of the bullets contained 12 small boxes of bullets, of casing. And it was held by a fabric belt. And we pulled the thread out of the belt and we sew by hand whatever. Wow. So mainly we made restoration of dresses, or from 2 dresses we made 1.
You did this all in secret?
Huh?
You did this all in secret?
No.
No.
In my free time. We had 12 hours free, which we didn't spend in a shower, because shower we got once in a few months. The lice ate us. This was the main thing what we did to kill the lice. And everybody was sitting on the bunk bed and getting the clothes that we wore. And lice were our company. After the war, what we did when we work on machines, they gave us acetone and brought from burned factories fabrics, parts of clothing, or they washed it and they brought to clean the machinery. Mm-hmm. From there we found Long John with 1 leg. Apparently the owner of it was blown, his leg was blown away. And so I started to make hose. We had very cold winter. I had a friend who was bringing the schmattes, the rugs, in a box. So I always took what I could and took it. And I made brassiers for the girls, that they give me a piece of bread for it. But mainly what we saw was for German master's wife in Germany, or a woman master. A woman master was the most lucrative because we sometimes got some cooked food. But this was some. But even if it was a piece of bread, it was a piece of bread. We were definitely not getting enough food. I tell you one instance, when we came the first day, the men were carrying, 2 men were carrying a kettle, you know, a stick through the handles, and soup. We were given sink, ugly-looking containers and a wooden spoon, and we are getting the soup. I looked at the soup. It was a gray substance with some pieces floating in it. And the pieces looked like beads, only were gray. It was really horrible, but I ate it. And right around me were maybe 12 girls. We will be with you. How can you eat it? I said, you will not eat, we will starve. And this is how you made friendship. Giving example to live, wanting to live, apparently. But there was no vivid, I want to live. No. You take it as it comes. This you can take from the book, really, the beating.
Okay, I'll do that from the book.
Ask question.
Tell me about Liberation Day. Tell me about Liberation Day.
We were really not liberated. We liberated ourselves. My husband, whom I got to know the last day, because the Germans disappeared. We knew that something is going on because they spoke with hushed tones to each other, and the little whip that they had aside was gone, and they spoke and they disappeared, and they came and disappeared, something going on. We heard the artillery, and through one window in a storeroom, somebody went there and brought news, somewhere far, fire. So we knew that something is coming. And we took our belongings from the place that we were, and no, not yet. Yet we were in the barracks. We were laying 4 on one, of course, not covered with the ugly horse blanket, but waiting. What should we do? Lay on the bunk bed. And some Nazis came, out, all of us from all, how many barracks they were, out. Another order came, back to the barracks. And so it was few times. Eventually, we were stood there in 5s. At this time was already, I talked to my husband, because he was walking, trying to avoid the Ukrainian who were posted by the German, and they were rough. And he was walking with a group, maybe 16 people, because he knew where to go. He knew the town, he knew the factory, and the place that we lived. And he said to me, I was standing there with the blanket, the horrible blanket. This is a book by itself, the blanket, under my arm. And he saw a lonely girl standing. He says, he was not 22 yet. I was 20, no. I was 22. And he just became 22. Anyhow, he says, where are you going? I said, I don't know. You have something to eat? No. We have one bread for 60 people. Come with us. There was one good master that broke the storeroom and threw in the masses that when we were standing out, bread. So we had one bread, so I went with them. And he knew how to, where to hit. When we saw from far a Ukrainian, he went down to the factory, to the basement. He knew. He always was a leader. Anyhow, the Germans took us eventually out, all of us, I don't know how many. And my husband said, I cannot talk to him as a husband because he was nothing to me then, but the leader said, not in the front, we are not in the front and not in the back, we are in the middle. And sure enough, they took 500 people from the front and from the back. We were still there. This was the famous hunger march from Poland to Germany to Bergen-Belsen. On the way, people were dying. They were not fed, so they ate some grass. The grass was already muddy from all the tripping on it, and people were very sick. Diphtheria was the main thing that people were dying after being free. For us who were left there, I told you they took from the front, from the back. We didn't know what's going on. We had to, we sat in the cold weather on the bare ground and waited. No, less and less. We didn't see anybody, any military. And my husband was one of a group of 4, I think, that went out, opened the gate and went out and came back and said the Russians are in town. The men already had, the men that were with the underground had armband, red armband, militia, and we went to the kitchen where our friend, close friend, was a cook, and there was hot coffee, whatever, hot and black. And we opened the gate. We liberated ourselves. Nobody was there to take care of us. We go out on the street. Now I have more time. Okay. We go out on the street, and there is a guy. The streets were empty, really, and carries 2 suitcases. And it was impossible not to recognize us because on our only clothes that we had was a big H with in red oil paint. We could not go undetected. This was in case if we wanted to run away. And he says, I was always good to the Jews, and he is shaking and the suitcases down. We have not been human enough to say, give us one of the suitcases. not to touch him, not to beat him. Why? We wouldn't do it. But give us, we don't have what to wear. We were not human. We couldn't do it. There was, of course, quite a number of people, men, that ran to where they knew they will find the apartments of the high people, high hierarchy. And they overtook apartments with all that was in it, clothing and treasures and painting that were supposed to be sent to Germany. At one time, because I don't really talk chronologically, but in one time I was a group of people that cleaned the quarters of the high-rank German in a hotel. So we cleaned it. We had to look neat. We were given good food because we were down in the kitchen to eat, and they cooked for us a whole pot of any grain. And I did not eat ever buckwheat at home, but my mother would be proud and happy to see how I ate with what appetite. The Polish waiters were good to us, which was the first time a Pole was good to us. And they put some gravy on this. Or they said that they have to bring 3 portions, and they gave 1 portion to us.
Did you ever see your mother and your sister again?
Never.
Never. You never did know where they went?
The tale was that they were killed in Treblinka. And you didn't have to whom to talk about it. But I know that the transport went to Treblinka.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to, I don't want to hold you up. I know you're,
No, I had time.
okay.
I didn't see.
I want to be able to get your portrait. I don't want to run out of time to get your portrait taken. What I'd like to do, if this is okay with you, I'm going to work on your book when I get back. So that I could fill in, so I don't have to hold you up. I have a million questions.
You see, the book took me 1.5 years.
Right. And I started it. I want to be able to go
Yeah.
back with a lot of the questions I have.
Yeah, you
And then
will
is it
see.
okay with you if I call you, if I have any other questions?
No.
And then what I'd like to do is when I go to write the story, I'm going to contact you and go over it really quickly so that you feel like I've included what you want me to include.
My lifetime is not very long.
Right.
So you better do it.
It'll be within the next couple months. I just have so many questions. I'll keep you here all day.
I know.
So
and
what?
that's what I started to do
Right,
now.
right.
Question.